The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the trial against Jamal Harris, a well-known black environmental scientist, reached its turning point. Jamal faced charges of tampering with water quality samples, a grave accusation that threatened not only his career, but also his reputation and years of advocacy work for clean water. Detective Connor Mills, the lead officer on the case, had taken the stand earlier, painting a vivid picture of Jamal caught red-handed. According to Mills, Jamal deliberately altered water samples from a public reservoir, compromising a critical investigation into pollution violations. The prosecution leaned heavily on this testimony, confident it would sway the jury. Jamal, calm and composed, sat quietly at the defendant's table listening. When it was his turn to speak, he rose steadily, a folder clutched in his hand, the folder containing the evidence that would dismantle the prosecution's case. Judge Reynolds nodded, inviting Jamal to proceed. Taking a breath, Jamal addressed the courtroom. Your Honor, members of the jury, I stand here today to prove my innocence not just through words, but through hard, irrefutable science. He opened the folder and pulled out a set of thick documents. The official lab report commissioned by Jamal himself from an independent, state-certified environmental testing laboratory. These reports, he said, handing copies to the court clerk, are the results of water samples I collected from the reservoir, tested by an accredited third-party laboratory with no affiliations to law enforcement or municipal authorities involved in this case. The courtroom fell silent. The judge carefully examined the first few pages, her expression unreadable. Jamal continued, "This report confirms that the water samples were uncontaminated and identical to those collected during independent municipal testing. The methodology is outlined in detail, including chain of custody documentation, testing procedures, and the laboratory certification." Detective Mills shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The confident smirk he had worn earlier vanished. Pointing to the pages Jamal highlighted, "Here are the dates and signatures confirming the sample's integrity and timely processing. Contrary to the prosecution's claims, no evidence suggests any tampering on my part." The prosecution attorney, Laura Simmons, rose quickly. "Objection, Your Honor. This is new evidence that was never disclosed prior to the trial. We need time to examine its validity." Judge Reynolds responded firmly. "The court will allow the evidence as it directly challenges the credibility of key testimony. The prosecution will have time to respond." "Continue." Mr. Harris, Jamal's defense attorney, stepped forward to call environmental experts who testified about the lab's impartiality and rigorous scientific protocols. One expert explained, "This lab meets all state and federal standards for environmental testing. Their results are widely trusted in regulatory and legal contexts." Another expert detailed how independent testing eliminates bias and protects the integrity of sample analysis. Meanwhile, documents presented by the defense revealed troubling inconsistencies in Detective Mills's handling of the samples. Delays in logging evidence, missing chain of custody forms, and conflicting reports. Over the next few hours, the prosecution's case weakened under scrutiny. They failed to provide conclusive evidence that Jamal tampered with the samples. The jury's murmurs turned from skeptical to doubtful. As closing arguments approached, Laura Simmons admitted, "The prosecution acknowledges the strength of the defense's evidence and the significant questions raised about Detective Mills's testimony." Judge Reynolds instructed the jury on the importance of credible evidence and the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. When the jury returned with a unanimous verdict of not guilty, relief and quiet applause filled the courtroom. Outside, reporters swarmed Jamal. He spoke with a firm but humble voice. "Justice prevailed because truth and science stood firm. This isn't just my victory. It's a victory for every person who believes in fairness and facts. When accusations arise, independent verification and transparency must guide our judgments." His story quickly became a benchmark case, demonstrating how science, integrity, and perseverance can triumph over false accusations and prejudice.